She wasn't dressed like a performer. She wasn't even on the list until last week. So when she stepped on stage, nervous, silent, no makeup, no friends cheering, most people looked down at their phones. But then she opened her mouth. And for the next 3 minutes, no one in that college hall moved, not even to breathe. Before we reveal the full story, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments below where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. Westwood College's Performing Arts Center didn't need a flashy sign, just high-ceiling acoustics and rows of burgundy seats that had cupped the weight of 1,000 performances. That was the whole point. If you needed directions to find it, you probably weren't meant to be performing there. The building itself hummed with a particular frequency, the smell of floor wax and ambition, the echo of rehearsed laughs bouncing off concrete walls, the quiet tension of talent measuring itself against talent. The entire place vibrated with that peculiar energy of creative people trying desperately to be noticed, to be chosen, to matter in ways their hometowns had never allowed them to. Meanwhile, student performers filled the hallways like oxygen, theater. Majors in thrifted blazers quoting Shakespeare between classes, music students carrying instrument cases like extensions of their bodies, dance majors stretching in every empty corner they could find. The whole place pulsed with the desperate heartbeat of young artists who measured their worth in applause volume and callback lists. Amara Shah didn't look like she belonged there at all. Hell, she didn't even try to. There she stood at the edge of the cafeteria in a blue hoodie that had faded from too many washes, not from some designer's distressed collection. Her jeans weren't artfully ripped or strategically cropped, just regular denim that had softened with time. And those shoes, plain canvas slip-ons with scuffed toes that had clearly been worn for function, not fashion. Her backpack, not those trendy canvas totes with motivational quotes or vintage band logos, hung from one shoulder like a practical afterthought. Inside, just textbooks, a worn spiral notebook, and a thermos of tea she made each morning in her dorm microwave. Meanwhile, the performing arts world floated around her like it was made of different air. Beautiful people with practiced laughs and calculated casualness. Girls with perfect messy buns and vintage band tees who somehow never seemed to sweat. Guys who carried guitars everywhere, even when they had no intention of playing them. The whole place hummed with the particular frequency of people who had turned their personalities into auditions. Amara just adjusted her earbud and kept walking. The cafeteria buzzed with lunchtime chaos. Plastic trays sliding along metal rails, cash registers beeping, the constant undercurrent of 100 conversations happening at once. Amara found her usual spot at the far end of a long table, the kind of location specifically chosen to minimize human interaction. She unwrapped her sandwich with careful movements. Like everything she did, precise, quiet, efficient. Across the room, Brielle Lamont held court. If Westwood College had royalty, Brielle was it. Senior theatre major, president of the Student Arts Committee, Instagram micro-influencer with just enough followers to make her dangerous. The kind of girl who practiced her candid laugh in the mirror and called professors by their first names. She sat surrounded by her usual entourage, 2 theatre girls with identical curtain bangs, a film major with expensive headphones permanently slung around his neck, and a dance student whose posture remained perfect even while eating cafeteria fries. Brielle tossed her glossy hair over one shoulder and leaned forward. "So the talent show lineup is set," she announced, "but I feel like it's missing something." "More you?" joked headphones guy, earning half eye rolls. "A wild card," Brielle corrected. "Something unexpected. Makes for better social media content." She scanned the cafeteria with the calculating gaze of someone constantly curating her surroundings. That's when she spotted Amara. The small girl sat alone, headphones in, humming softly to herself as she ate. The sound was barely audible, just a thread of melody slipping out unintentionally. "Who is that?" Brielle asked, nodding toward the corner. Jasmine, one of the theatre girls, squinted. "Oh, her? She's in my Spanish lit class. Never says anything." "She's humming," Brielle observed, tilting her head. "Is she any good?" "How would I know?" Jasmine laughed. "She barely speaks, let alone sings." Brielle's eyes narrowed, a small smile, playing at the corner of her mouth, the kind of smile that usually meant someone else was about to become content. "You know what would be iconic?" she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "If we got her to perform." The table went quiet. "Like in the show?" asked Tyler, the dance student. "Exactly," Brielle nodded. "Think about it. Shy. Girl steps up, probably squeaks out some nursery rhyme. Audience feels that perfect mix of pity and second-hand embarrassment." She spread her hands like framing a scene. "It'll be the most talked-about moment of the night." "That's kind of mean," Jasmine said, though her smile suggested she wasn't entirely opposed to the idea. "It's inclusive," Brielle corrected, her voice syrupy with fake sincerity. "We're encouraging student participation. Isn't that literally my job description?" They all laughed, the comfortable laugh of people who've never been the punchline. "Fine," headphones guy conceded. "But how are you going to convince her? She looks like she'd rather die than be on stage." Brielle stood, smoothing her vintage jacket. "Watch and learn." She approached Amara with the practiced grace of someone used to being watched. Her smile switched on like stage lights, bright, perfect, and entirely for show. "Hey there," she said, her voice dialed to the exact frequency of friendly but not too friendly. "You're Amara, right? From Professor Chen's class?" Amara looked up, startled. She pulled one earbud out, eyes widening slightly at being addressed by someone like Brielle. "Yes?" Her voice was soft, uncertain, the voice of someone unused to being noticed. "I'm Brielle. I run the Student Arts Committee." She extended a hand with nails painted the exact shade of burgundy as the auditorium seats. "I couldn't help overhearing you humming just now." Amara's cheeks flushed. "Sorry, I didn't realize—" "No, no," Brielle cut in. "It was beautiful, really." "It caught my ear." She sat down, uninvited, clipboard materializing from nowhere. "We're hosting the annual talent showcase next Friday, and I thought maybe you'd like to participate." Amara blinked, looking from Brielle to the clipboard and back again. "Me?" "Absolutely." Brielle's smile never wavered. "We're looking for diverse voices, not just the usual theatre kids. Something real, you know? Authentic." The word authentic sounded strange in Brielle's mouth, like it didn't quite fit between her other, more rehearsed words. Amara's hand fidgeted with her earbud cord. "I don't really perform." "That's exactly why you should," Brielle insisted, leaning forward with practiced enthusiasm. "It's just a small show, super casual, 3 minutes on stage, sing whatever feels good, no pressure." She slid the clipboard forward. "What do you say? Just put your name down right here." From across the cafeteria, Brielle's friends watched, barely containing their amusement. One of them actually had her phone up, probably recording for their group chat. Amara hesitated, looking down at the clipboard. The sign-up sheet was filled with names she recognized from campus posters and Instagram stories. People who belonged on stage, people who were nothing like her. She should have said no. Anyone else would have, but instead, she looked up with those quiet eyes and said, "Okay." Brielle actually blinked, momentarily caught off guard. "Wait, really?" "Yes," Amara said softly. "I'll try." Brielle recovered quickly, her smile snapping back into place. "That's amazing. So brave of you." She stood, retrieving her clipboard. "You'll be toward the end, right after my number. Just show up at 6:30 for sound check, okay?" Amara nodded. "Great," Brielle chirped, already backing away. "Can't wait to hear you." She returned to her table triumphant, where her friends were already. Stifling laughter. She said, "Yes," Jasmine whispered. "I can't believe it." "This is going to be legendary," Headphones Guy smirked. "Or tragic," Tyler added. "Either way, good content." Brielle took a theatrical bow. "The things I do for this school's entertainment." None of them looked back at Amara, who had returned to her lunch, earbuds in, expression unreadable. They didn't notice her pull out her phone and make a note. Didn't see her close her eyes briefly, a small furrow appearing between her brows. They had already forgotten she was there, just like they always did. But what they didn't know, what none of them could possibly have guessed, was that being invisible isn't the same as being empty, and Amara Shah was anything but empty. The night of the talent show arrived with the particular electricity that accompanies college events, that strange mix of ironic detachment and genuine excitement, where everyone pretends they don't care while secretly hoping to witness something memorable. The Performing Arts Center filled quickly, student government types claiming front rows, friend groups clumping in the middle, latecomers scanning for empty seats along the sides. The air buzzed with pre-show. Chatter, phones glowing in the dimming house lights. Backstage was organized chaos. The green room overflowed with performers in various states of costume and panic. Guitarists tuning frantically, dancers stretching in corners, a cappella groups harmonizing in hushed circles. Makeup bags spilled open across every surface. Bottled water and energy drinks littered the floor, and at the center of it all stood Brielle, clipboard in hand, wearing a sequined top that caught every light like she'd been rolled in broken mirrors. She barked orders with practiced authority, somehow managing to seem both helpful and superior. "Sound check is closed, people. If you haven't done it already, you're singing dry. Performances start in 10. If you're not ready when your name is called, you're cut. No exceptions." Her gaze swept the room, counting heads, making mental notes of who needed a final pep talk and who needed to be taken down a notch. All part of her carefully cultivated role as campus star maker. Then her eyes landed on something unexpected. Amara. She sat alone on a folding chair near the door, hands folded in her lap. No pre-show rituals, no vocal warm-ups, no frantic makeup checks. She wore simple black jeans and a dark blue button-down shirt that was a size too big. Not a performance outfit, just clean clothes. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. No makeup, no jewelry. She looked like she was waiting for a bus. Not preparing to sing in front of 300 people. Brielle's surprise quickly morphed into amusement. This was going to be even better than she'd hoped. She sauntered over, sequins catching the light with each step. "Amara, you made it!" Amara looked up. "Yes, I said I would." "Love the minimalist look," Brielle said, gesturing vaguely at Amara's outfit. "Very authentic." There was that word again. Plastic in Brielle's mouth. "Did you get a chance to sound check?" she asked. Already knowing the answer, Amara shook her head. "I tried earlier, but they said the list was full." "Oh, bummer," Brielle said, not sounding bummed at all. "Well, the mic's pretty straightforward. Just step up and do your thing." She checked her clipboard. "You're on right after me, by the way. Second to last." Amara nodded again. "Thank you." Brielle lingered a moment longer, waiting for some sign of nervousness. Trembling hands, a wobbling voice, anything she could report back to her friends. But Amara just sat there, breathing evenly, eyes clear and calm. It was almost disappointing. "Well," Brielle finally said, "break a leg, or whatever." She walked away, already composing the group chat message in her head. The show began with the usual college talent show fare, mediocre magic tricks, earnest poetry readings, a guy who could play the Mario theme on a guitar. The audience clapped for everything with the polite enthusiasm of people who knew they'd be performing next time. Phones recorded every moment, ready to be posted with captions like, "My talented friends," or "Only at Westwood." Backstage, performers, paced and practiced, each convinced their 3 minutes would be the ones everyone remembered. Amara stayed in her chair, watching silently as people came and went. She didn't pace, didn't practice, just observed everything with those quiet eyes that seemed to take in more than they revealed. Finally, it was Brielle's turn. She strutted on stage to enthusiastic applause. Her friends had made sure to pack the first 3 rows with supporters. Spotlights caught her sequins, sending fragments of light dancing across the walls like fractured stars. "What's up, Westwood?" she called into the mic, voice perfectly projected to reach the back row. Music kicked in, a mashup of 3 chart-topping songs everyone recognized. She launched into a performance that was more spectacle than substance. Dramatic, hair flips, choreographed moves she'd clearly practiced in front of her mirror, vocal runs that nearly worked. What she lacked in technical skill she made up for in confidence. She owned the stage like it was her personal property, making eye contact with the judges, throwing winks to friends in the audience. When she finished with a dramatic pose, the applause was immediate and enthusiastic. Brielle bowed deeply, soaking it in. This was her moment, the culmination of 4 years of carefully crafted campus celebrity. As she exited stage left, she passed Amara, waiting in the wings. "Good luck following that," she whispered, not quite under her breath. Amara didn't respond. The stage manager touched her arm. "You're up next. Amara, right?" She nodded. "Just head to center when I cue you," he said, already checking his list for the final act. Brielle lingered in the wings, phone ready to record what she was sure would be 3 minutes of delicious awkwardness. Her friends had instructed her to get every painful second. The stage lights dimmed briefly as the MC returned to the mic. "All right, Westwood. Let's keep this energy going with our next performer." He checked his notes. "Please welcome to the stage, Amara Shah." The applause was polite, but noticeably quieter than it had been for Brielle. A few scattered whoops, mostly from people who clapped for everything. The spotlight found center stage and waited. And then Amara walked out. She moved without performance, just steady steps, no pageantry. She looked impossibly small under the full glare of stage lights, like a photograph that had been accidentally shrunk in editing. Her dark hair caught the light in a way that made it look almost blue at the edges. In the front row, one of Brielle's friends whispered loudly, "Is she lost?" Another replied, "This should be good." From the wings, Brielle zoomed in with her phone camera, already imagining the reactions her video would get. This was exactly what she'd hoped for, the visual contrast between her own sequined spectacle and this plain, forgettable girl who hadn't even bothered to dress for the occasion. Amara stepped up to the microphone. It was adjusted for Brielle's height, positioned for someone at least half a foot taller. She reached up and lowered it with careful hands. No fumbling, no apology, just a simple adjustment. The audience shifted in their seats. Someone coughed. A few people checked their phones, assuming this would be the bathroom break portion of the evening. Amara stood perfectly still, hands at her sides, not fidgeting, not swaying. She took a single deep breath that lifted her shoulders slightly, then settled them back into perfect stillness. Then she closed her eyes and sang. The first note wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was pure, so clean and clear it seemed to slice through the stale auditorium air like the edge of a just-polished knife. A single, perfect tone that somehow carried both strength and vulnerability in its quiet depths. In the front row, Brielle's friend stopped mid-whisper. The second phrase rose higher, a melody line that curled upward like smoke, each note flowing into the next with effortless precision. No strain, no showy vibrato. Just pure, honest sound that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than mere vocal cords. The room went completely silent. Amara's voice didn't boom or belt. It didn't need volume to command attention. Each note was placed with the careful precision of someone laying down precious stones, one by one, creating something both delicate and indestructible. By the first chorus, you could hear people's breathing change. Shifting stopped. Phones lowered, forgotten in laps. Even the lighting tech, who'd been half asleep in his booth, sat forward in his chair. In the wings, Brielle's arm slowly lowered, her phone now pointing at the floor. She wasn't recording anymore. She was just listening, her mouth slightly open, her eyes fixed on the small figure in the spotlight, who suddenly didn't seem small at all. Amara sang with her eyes still closed, standing perfectly still. No dramatic hand gestures, no practiced facial expressions, no performance tricks at all. She didn't need them. Her voice carried everything, every emotion, every story, every delicate shade of meaning in the lyrics. It wasn't just good, it was transcendent. A guy in the back row, a music production major known for his brutal criticism, actually whispered "holy shit" loud enough for several people to hear. No one shushed him. They were too busy trying to process what they were hearing. When Amara reached the bridge, her voice opened fully for the first time, not screaming, not belting, but revealing its true power. The sound filled every corner of the auditorium, wrapping around each person like it was singing to them alone. In that moment, the difference between Brielle's performance and Amara's became devastatingly clear. One had been asking to be seen, the other had something worth seeing. As the final notes drifted through the air, Amara's voice softened again, returning to that intimate quiet that somehow reached every ear. The last phrase hung in the air like mist, slowly dissolving into perfect silence. For 3 full seconds, no one moved, no one breathed, and then, all at once, the audience erupted. It wasn't just applause. It was a physical reaction. People launching to their feet, hands clapping so hard it looked painful, voices shouting over each other in disbelief and appreciation. A girl in the 3rd row was actually crying, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Amara opened her eyes, blinking against the spotlight. Her expression didn't change. She didn't beam or bow dramatically, she simply stood there, absorbing the sound without seeming to need it. After a moment, she stepped back from the microphone, gave a small nod that might have been a bow, and walked. Off stage the same way she'd walked on, quietly, evenly, without ceremony. As she passed through the wings, she walked right by Brielle, who hadn't moved since the first verse. Brielle's expression was unreadable. Something between shock and revelation, like she'd just witnessed something she hadn't known was possible. Backstage, performers who had been packing up their things stood frozen. A ukulele player's mouth hung open. The a cappella group that had been so proud of their harmonies earlier now looked like they were considering transferring schools. Was that real? Someone whispered. No one answered. They didn't need to. It had been real, more real than anything else they'd seen that night. And the girl who had done it, the one they'd never noticed before, the one who had been invited as a joke, had already slipped out the back door, disappearing into the night before anyone could ask her how. The aftermath was both immediate and lasting. By the next morning, Amara's name ricocheted through campus like a bullet that couldn't find a place to land. Video clips from the showcase, shaky, incomplete, never capturing what it had actually felt like to be there, spread across social and media. Comment sections filled with variations of "Who is she?" and "How have we never heard her before?" Brielle's account remained conspicuously silent on the matter. In the cafeteria, the buzz was undeniable. Students who had never spoken to Amara suddenly knew her name, her major, her dorm building. Theories circulated. She was secretly famous. She'd been trained by a celebrity vocal coach. She was planning to drop out for a record deal. None of it was true. When Amara walked in for breakfast, same blue hoodie, same quiet steps. The room didn't exactly part for her, but it noticed. Conversations paused, heads turned, eyes followed her movements with new interest. She got her food and sat at her usual corner table, alone, like always. But today, the aloneness felt different. It wasn't isolation anymore, it was choice. 3 different people stopped by her table within the first 10 minutes. Your voice was incredible. Are you going to perform again? Do you take students? I'd pay for lessons. Amara answered each one politely but briefly. No, she didn't have formal training. Yes, she'd been singing since she was small. No, she hadn't. Planned on performing again. A music professor actually sought her out between classes, business card extended like an offering. The department has scholarships, he said without preamble, for voices like yours. Amara took the card with a small nod. Thank you. By lunchtime, she'd been approached by the jazz ensemble, 2 a cappella groups, and the spring musical director. Each conversation ended the same way, with Amara listening carefully, responding politely, but never quite giving the enthusiastic reaction they hoped for. It confused people. In their world, talent was meant to be leveraged, displayed, monetized. A voice like that was supposed to be hungry for the spotlight. But Amara moved through the day with the same quiet self-containment she'd always had. She answered when spoken to. She considered offers genuinely, but she didn't transform into someone else just because they'd finally noticed what had always been there. Brielle, meanwhile, seemed to shrink with each passing hour. Her usual center of attention energy had dimmed significantly. Her Instagram, normally updated multiple times daily, went dark. Her friends still gathered around her at lunch, but the dynamic had shifted in ways too subtle to name, but too significant to ignore. Someone who had never been in Brielle's circle actually asked, "Did you know?" About her voice, Brielle forced a laugh. "Of course. Why do you think I recruited her? I have an eye for these things." But the lie didn't land quite right. It hung awkwardly in the air, obvious and a little sad. A week after the showcase, Amara received an email from the Performing Arts Department. They were hosting a small concert series, just 3 singers, the jazz trio backing them. Would she consider being the closing act? She read the email twice, then typed a simple response. Yes, I'd like that. When she arrived for the first rehearsal, the jazz musicians were already setting up, piano, upright bass, drums, all arranged in a loose semicircle on the small stage of the recital hall. They looked up when she entered, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and respect. "Amara, right?" the pianist asked, extending a hand. "Marcus, that's Danny on bass, Jordan on drums. We've heard a lot about you." She shook his hand with a small smile. "Nice to meet you." "So," he continued, "what are we playing?" Amara reached into her backpack and pulled out 3 neatly written sheets of music. "I was thinking this." The trio studied the pages, eyebrows rising slightly. "Interesting choice," Marcus said. "Not what I expected." "We can try something else," Amara offered. No, he said quickly. "It's perfect, just surprising." They arranged themselves, did a quick sound check, and began to play. The song started. Softly, just piano and Amara's voice finding each other in the empty hall. The melody was older than any of them, a standard from decades before they were born, but in Amara's voice, it felt timeless. By the second verse, when the bass and drums eased in, something magical was happening. The musicians watched her with growing wonder as she shaped each phrase. She wasn't loud. She didn't need to be. She had that rare gift of making music feel both effortless and deeply intentional. They played through the song once, then again, making small adjustments. By the third run-through, they were no longer 4 separate musicians. They had become a single instrument. When they finished, there was a moment of perfect silence. Then Jordan, the drummer, whispered, "Damn." Marcus shuffled his sheet music, trying to maintain professional composure. "That was really good. Let's take 5, and then run it again." As they stepped off the stage for a break, Danny approached Amara. "Can I ask you something?" Amara nodded. "Why didn't you ever audition?" "Before for anything?" Amara thought for a moment, her face calm and untroubled. No one ever asked me to, but you could have just signed up. I didn't need to sing on stage to know I could sing, Amara said simply. I just needed to sing. Danny studied her with new understanding. You've always known, haven't you, how good you are? Amara looked down at her hands, then back up. I've always known who I am, she said quietly. Whether anyone else noticed didn't change that. Across campus, in her single dorm room, Brielle sat at her desk, staring at her reflection in the blank screen of her laptop. The room was uncharacteristically quiet. No music, no FaceTime calls, no constant stream of visitors. Just silence and the faint hum of the mini-fridge. Her phone buzzed with a notification. A campus events page had just announced the jazz concert series featuring breakout vocal sensation Amara Shah. Brielle's thumb hovered over the like button for a long moment. Then, instead, she closed the app, set down her phone, and began typing. An email to the Student Arts Committee. Subject line, proposal for freshman showcase series. The night of the jazz concert, the recital hall filled to capacity. Students sat in the aisles, stood along the walls, crowded the doorways. Professors, who never attended student events, made exceptions. Even the dean showed up, curiosity finally outweighing protocol. They had come to hear the girl who had stunned them all. The quiet one. The one no one had noticed until she opened her mouth and changed everything. Backstage, Amara sat alone on a wooden stool, eyes closed, hands resting in her lap. No vocal exercises, no pacing, no ritual, just that same steady calm that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than nerves could reach. The stage manager poked his head around the curtain. 5 minutes, Amara, full house out there. She opened her eyes and nodded. Thank you. As she stood to prepare, a figure appeared in the doorway. Brielle. She looked different. Subdued almost, wearing jeans and a simple blouse instead of her usual statement pieces, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. Hey, she said, her voice oddly hesitant. I just wanted to wish you luck. Amara tilted her head slightly. Thank you. Brielle shifted her weight. I also wanted to say... She paused, searching for words that didn't sound rehearsed. I'm sorry for how it started, why I asked you to perform. I know why you asked me. You do. Amara's expression remained gentle, unburdened by resentment. Yes, but it doesn't matter why you asked. What matters is that I said yes. Brielle blinked, caught off guard. You're not angry. Why would I be? I'm singing tonight because of you. A small smile touched Amara's lips. Even if that wasn't what you intended. From the stage, the first notes of the piano introduction drifted backstage. Marcus was starting the set. Amara turned toward the curtain. I should go. Wait, Brielle said quickly. Just one question. How did you do it? Walk out there like that, in front of everyone, when you knew what they were thinking? Amara considered this. I wasn't thinking about them, she said finally. I was thinking about the song. But weren't you scared? Of what? Failing? Amara shook her head. I already knew I could sing. Whether they liked it or not wasn't up to me. The stage manager reappeared. Amara, you're on. She nodded and took a step toward the stage. Brielle's voice stopped her once more. I wish I had that, she said softly. Whatever it is you have. Amara looked back, her eyes kind. You do, she said simply. You just haven't stopped performing long enough to find it. Then she walked onto the stage to thunderous applause, stepping into the warm glow of the spotlight that now knew her name. Behind her, in the shadows of the wings, Brielle stood watching. For once, she wasn't thinking about how she looked or who was watching her or what they thought. She was just listening, really listening. And in the sound of Amara's voice, this girl she had once thought so forgettable, she heard something she'd been missing all along. the simple, stunning courage to be exactly who you are. Have you ever witnessed someone completely shatter expectations? Or maybe you've been the quiet one with a talent no one saw coming. Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. If Amara's journey touched something in you, hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow. And if you want more stories about ordinary women doing extraordinary things without asking for permission, make sure you're subscribed with the bell turned on so you don't miss tomorrow's video. And hey, if you know someone who's been overlooked or underestimated, share this with them. They might need it more than you think. Our other stories should be popping up on your screen right now. Choose your next one and I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place.